quite a bit. He got his first pubes, and
Mm.
so yeah. So my fifth game is The Witcher 3. It is one of the first kind of giant RPG games I kind of came to when I came to the PlayStation 4. And there is so much to that game. There's branching story paths. You can have, you know, slight spoilers. You can have certain people die in the game, like main characters die in the game, or you can have them live. You can, depending on which person you choose to settle down with, the ending's different. There's quests to go on. You can skip the quest if you don't want to go on them. You can, um, if you go on a quest, all of a sudden it can lead you down a rabbit hole where you think, hey, I just have to go kill this monster. And all of a sudden, 10 hours later, you're, drinking beers with the guy with the monster in the end because the monster ended up being, a person who got cursed or something, and you tried to break the curse. So, it's different than the TV show on Netflix, but similar in the regard of you go on these random quests and they lead you somewhere and there's a through line throughout the game and you may not see it, but man, it is such a cool game, and CD Projekt Red put so much love and care into that game and supported it and gave out free DLC left and right and they were one of the first ones to put the note in the game saying, hey, thanks for buying our game. Man, I had so much fun with The Witcher 3, and I just fell in love with the characters in the game. So, Witcher 3 is probably my first submission here. So, what you got next?
Let's see. So another game I sunk a lot of time into would be the Destinies. So both one and two. So I spent a good deal of time doing raids and all that other stuff and doing the grindity grind. Got a little tired on the grindity grind and haven't picked it up probably in 2 years now. But at the beginning of the generation, I'd been coming off of the first Destiny and definitely put a lot of time into number two also. So I did enjoy it. I really enjoyed the multiplayer being old school, as we've discussed. I was an old school Halo junkie. So um, just kind of really enjoyed that style of multiplayer, even though I know some of you guys don't. But yeah, that was a good one for me. Was
Did
it?
you do the
Oh,
PvP or PvP or PvE mostly for the Destiny stuff, the multiplayer, or a little bit of both, or what did you do?
I was pretty evenly split. So the raids and all that stuff is PVE. So I did a good portion of that, and I would also grind on the PvP quite a bit, um, trying to get that other gear and or just kind of the quick jumping in and doing matches. So like I said, I just kind of like that Call of Duty style, where
Yeah, yeah.
you're kind of jumping in. It's 10 people, and since it's Destiny slash Halo, uh, there's a lot of variety in the types of games that they'll play with the capture the flag or all that kind of stuff. And Call of Duty actually kind of caught up there and implemented some of those game types too. So the bomb planting and all that other crap.
Yeah, yeah.
So
What you got next?
So I guess I didn't know where I'm saying my games in no particular order,
Okay, yeah, no
um,
worries.
but I think I would honestly think next for me would be Superhot VR.
mm,
Um,
Ooh.
that's a good one. That's a
so
sweet game.
right, it was not the first game I had ever played in VR. I don't recall, but it's the one that I had that like, oh, I get it now. This is a completely new way to experience the medium of video games that I love and am so passionate about, and this is revolutionary. Like that whole experience was and is, in my opinion, transformative. Like it's literally doing something for the very first time,
Yep.
um, and it's so fucking cool, and it nails it. Like the best way to describe what it is and what Superhot is, but Superhot in VR is, imagine You are in a three-dimensional world that is the Matrix, and you are Neo. Um, people are shooting at you, and the bullets like only move, and your enemies only move when you move. You know, whether it be look around or shuffle your hand
Yeah.
controllers or whatever.
Try to do something. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the first time a bullet is flying at you, and you step to the side and turn your head physically in the real world and watch that bullet fly by you like this, you're like, holy fuck, that is fucking dope. And it really, really, truly is. So that
Yeah,
that
was
would
one of
be
the
in my
reasons I
top.
bought a VR too. Was that game?
Yeah.
That would be the game that I play way more than any other in VR. Like that game is
Yeah,
very awesome.
I played that at your house, Woodsy, and I really enjoyed that as well. I remember, like you mentioned, watching the bullets whiz by and whatnot, and everyone like picks up the gun, turns it sideways,
Yeah.
shoots it, or you
Yeah.
can throw it
Break yourself,
at
fool!
people.
I
Yeah,
always love
yeah.
trying to
So
throw the gun at people. It never works.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, no, no, no. But yeah, that game is awesome, man. That's a good submission. So my next game is God of War, the 2018 version. Man, that game hit at an interesting time, for me because um, came out in 2018. I had a son who was born within a year, so I have a daughter who's older, so I had two young kids, and the game is all about a dad kind of, Kratos coming to grips with being the dad and the sole provider. Um, and it hit at a time when, I'm a dad again, and I have a son, and it was just such a cool story to watch him go from, the game starts out where he's his son is hurting, and he reaches out to touch his son, and he's not able to touch him, because he's trying to be this big rough guy, and to where he evolves, as a dad, you know, it's such a cool story, and I loved it so much. I mean, and then the gameplay is always king to me. Throwing the axe and having the axe come back, and then things you unlock later in the game. I loved it. I loved the story. I loved the gameplay, top to bottom. They just did a stellar job. So I was blown away by it. I wasn't gonna buy it, and it came out and it was dropping tens and everywhere, and that's one of the instances where I was influenced to buy a game by review scores. I always look at review scores and say, okay, what are they at? Is it 8 or above? Okay, is it a 10? Um, how long does it take to beat? And what's a trophy list? Those are my top three things I look at when I look at games. And for all the tens that came out really turned my head. And I'm really glad I hopped in when I did, because that game hit at the right time for me. And yeah, nothing but poetic things to say about God of War. So, D, what else you got? What's next on your list?
Let's see. I got a few things on here. Let's throw a different one in here. I got the Dead Space series. So I don't know if you guys ever played those. Um,
So that was last gen though, but yeah, I did. They were great.
Some of them are on this gen. Because
No,
none of them.
not that. No, they're all last gen.
Shit.
Well, tell us about
Anyway,
Dead
tell us
Space,
about why
because
you love
I'm
Dead
curious.
Space.
really like
You're not
those.
wrong. You're not
What
wrong.
what is
Sure.
Dead Space?
Well,
'Cause
they
I've
were,
never.
it was a horror shooter, but it added in the customization mechanics on your guns, where you could pick up, gas charge or electric charge and this thing, and then you could mix it with, hey, I've got this spear gun, or I've got a regular gun, or I've got this thing, and then you mix them all together, and you make all this crazy shit. Like you end up with crazy gas powered bolt action spear throwers, and
Oh, shit.
it'll blast a spear through a half dead guy and nail him back to the wall in the back.
Yeah.
It's pretty fucking awesome.
Fuck 'em in the ass. Yeah.
Right. And then obviously you'd have the pop scares and stuff like the horror games do. And then it was puzzle in nature too. At some points, right, you'd have to figure this out or that out, the other thing out to get through. But I really did enjoy those games, and I'm very disappointed that my memory's failing me on how old that is, because
We're getting old, man.
like
Well,
with,
there's
I know,
there's
but
always
like with
talks
8 years
of a
old,
Dead Space like remaster or starting that back up. There's always like, I mean, that's a very cult favorite franchise to be sure. So,
What you got next?
so same. I'm gonna say one that might be a bit controversial at first, but maybe the more I talk, the more you'll agree with it. No Man's Sky. So this was a game that I was probably more hyped about than any other video game I can remember for the longest time during, from its very first E3 presentation all the way up to launch. And then it launched. And though I still enjoyed the No Man's Sky 1.0, as it is kind of referred to, experience, it definitely wasn't what they had kind of promised. Now, flash forward a few years, obviously they've dropped so much content and all for free. And I would argue it is now, including like making the entire game in VR for free. I would argue that it has now surpassed what it even originally tried to be, and it's not even close. It's well beyond what was originally promised. And I have to say, one of the reasons I loved it and had so much hype about it, which is why it's in my top 5, is just the concept of procedural generation on that scale. And the type of game it was, like, would have been like 8-year-old me's idea of what the coolest video game ever would be. By far. Like, huge space junkie, Star Wars, all that.
Yep.
Like, love reading adventure novels, still love reading adventure novels, so on and so forth. And then always being very interested in, astronomy and all things space related. And here was this infinite space adventure game. and by the 8-year-old person that still exists in all of our hearts was like, fuck yeah, bro! Fuck yeah! This is it! And I have to say, it blew me away to begin with. Even before it was a disaster, it blew me away. Still when it was kind of a disaster, and still blows me away now. And they're still releasing shit. So nothing but love out there for Sean Murray and Hello Games. Really sticking to it. And fulfilling my 8-year-old me's wildest fantasies in a video game.
The updates have been spectacular.
Yeah.
So I got into it for a minute and almost maxed out my cash and helped these Cholos max out their cash.
Right.
With some farming. We made pretty badass base
I am
on
once
one
again
planet together.
I am once again asking for your donation. Yeah, for your fusion igniters.
But yeah,
Very
the
cool,
building
yeah.
and stuff is pretty awesome in that game. So
Yeah, because it's like a
bases
Minecraft
and
too.
custom, yeah, it is like Minecraft actually. That's a really good comparison. Because that base we built on that one planet with my farm on it, it got to the point where it gets the errors where like trees and shit are growing in it when I load back in the game because I made it way too big.
It's Minecraft meets Star Wars meets Alien meets fucking everything. It's just nuts. Good for that game.
So my next game is a series of games. The Yakuza series.
Series are allowed, as in the whole body of work. Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to bring the series thing in just because if I made my top 5 list, my number 1 game would be all the same game, all 5 top 5.
Okay.
So I kind of wanted to frame with series just because it's a little unfair. So Yakuza, I I thought Yakuza was Grand Theft Auto in Japan, and it's not at all. It is a game that it takes place around one character essentially, Kazuma Kiryu, and you know there are there's seven games. There's 7 games in the series right now. Number Yakuza 7's coming out, but they made a zero. Runs up through 6 that based around one storyline. You have to play the games in order. I can't stress that enough. I mean, I didn't, and I wish I had. They weren't all out when I started playing them. So I kind of jumped around a bit from here to there. But it's such a weird and wacky series. Like you go on these weird quest lines where you have to like chase down guys that like to wear diapers and do weird things, and go around collecting cats, or fly drones, or you get into fights in batting cages, and all this weird stuff packed into it. But
it makes you wonder if the Japanese are such literary narrative geniuses that they're just like telling stories and making symbolism out of things that just the Western world is too dumb to comprehend, or they're all crazy as fuck.
Either one way or the other, man. These games, but the through line in the story is, you're this Yakuza member, and you kind of fall in and out with the Yakuzas, and you find a little girl in the Yakuza 0, and her mom dies, and you basically raise her as your own. You start an orphanage, and it's just kind of your two relationships and how she grows throughout the series, and where she goes and where you go. And the gameplay is very similar throughout all of them. So start with 0. 0, Kiwami 1 and Kiwami 2 are both brand new games, or remakes of the original. 3, 4, and 5 are just ports. They're a little rougher to play. But number 6 is also a brand new game in this generation. And if you want a cool story, weird and wacky gameplay, I can't recommend Yakuza enough. They're long games, so get ready. Woodsy tried dabbling in 0. The saves are a little wonky.
I didn't know the save was in the fucking phone booth. Never explained to me. Wasted 7 hours of my life.
Yep. And then in each game, there's one of the games has you're a real estate agent, and then another game you run a cockfighting ring, and another game you run an RC car, and you get into fights, and all throughout long you're fighting guys in the street and collecting money and fighting different Yakuza members and trying to defend this little girl and trying to raise her right, and being constantly pulled back into the world of gangsters in Yakuza. So Yakuza series, man, they're all on PlayStation 4. Give them a shot. I highly recommend it. D, what you got next?
All right, let's go Skyrim. We can probably count that as last
gen too,
and next gen.
And next gen.
All of these games have been like crossover games or games from last gen.
Well, he said the era. I'm trying to think of the older games.
Right.
I got you. So no worries, man. Skyrim wasn't this generation, so that counts. I'll give it a count.
We could even say the Elder Scrolls series if you want their
right. Take it back to 1998, bro.
Right.
So Skyrim, tell me about Skyrim.
Oh man, everyone knows it because that's why they're porting it over onto the next gen. My God, no, I did my walkthrough on that son of a bitch and put in my 120 hours on leveling up your character and wandering around and exploring all the areas and fighting all the dragons, and I usually don't get into those games too much, and it's actually why I put Witcher back, and because I think I played that and one of the Assassin's Creeds back to back, or one of that either that or one of the Far Cries, where I get into it and then I unlock all the shit, and then I'm burnt out on that style. And so then I picked up Witcher right after that, and I was like,
"Well, fatigue."
Oh yeah, I don't got time for this. But yeah, it was ahead of its time, and it was excellent, very well thought out and detailed, and all that stuff. Man, it was a lot of fun. Had a good time in Skyrim.
Let's see what you got next.
So, thinking about this, there's like a few more. I know what my five are, but there's a six. There's a six, and I wish I could include it. You'll hear about that in the next go here. But so D, one of my favorite games of this generation, is also a cross-generational title.
You can't do that though. It's last year.
Yes, I love it.
It was cross-generation because it actually released the November of the PlayStation 5, or the 4 and 3. So it was a launch title for one and just cross-gen for the other. And that is Metal Gear Solid 5. Love that fucking game. Still love that game. Somehow keep getting pulled back in that game and not the multiplayer mode, but the FOB mode, your own mother base mode. That game offers so much fucking content, and it's just great because it's just, it's everything I want a Metal Gear Solid game to be. Wacky as fuck, but with the best gameplay that series has ever had. And then you had all the fallout on top of it with Konami and Kojima, and how the fucking the end of the game wasn't really finished. Like they could say it was, it definitely wasn't. And I'll never understand why that decision was made. I know they don't care about video games, Konami, anymore. Fuck you, Konami. But like, I love that game. I love the online mode. Just because it's a game that is itself a meta narrative within the main game and has its own mini management games and all this other shit. I just love that game. I love that game. I wish it was finished properly. I pray someday that it will. Hopefully this generation, maybe this generation, God willing, something will happen where they'll do a remaster of Metal Gear Solid 5, the actual finished fucking version. Do that series right. But
well, rumors are, I'm going to take a little bit of news here. Metal Gear Solid remake is coming, and it's a PlayStation exclusive. So we'll see if they fully buff that. But I also heard that 2, 3, and 4 are possibly also getting remakes also. So maybe there's hope for number 5 to get remade and finished properly. Right. So Metal Gear Solid was a game that I pre-ordered from GameStop. So that shows you how dumb I was back in the day. Because I didn't know how pre-orders worked and how digital storefronts worked. So I pre-ordered it from GameStop. I went and picked it up. I played it for a bit, and then I fell off of it. And I think I was in a game hole for a while, picked it back up, and man, I played through it, finished that game. I didn't do much of the online multiplayer stuff, but I had a lot of fun with that game too, man.
Did you platinum that game? Because that's a very hard game to platinum.
No, I did not. I didn't even try, man. It's S rank everything and time things.
And all sorts of shit online too, which is even...
Yeah, I saw that, and I was like, nope, let me get as many trophies as I can and get the F out of here, because there is no way a platinum's going to happen in this game.
Right.
So my next one that I'll bring to the table is Hitman series. I talk about this almost weekly, so I won't bore you down with the details, but man, IO Interactive did such a good job with that game. They keep giving us more. You guys talk about No Man's Sky, keep pumping content in. They have, these challenges, these elusive targets, so once you beat a level, that you can go back and replay it again. You can do the story modes. I'd highly recommend doing the story missions because there's such cool and fun and creative ways to eliminate your target. But you can also go in there guns blazing. I wouldn't recommend that because you're likely to get killed right away. So many goofy costume designs and everything you can do in that game. And then they gave number 2 and said, hey, you have number 1. Here's all of the features number 2 has, but we did it with our original game. And they're doing it with 3. They're saying, here, you buy
plus
3.
Plus
VR. And all this shit's coming included in one tidy little price, and it's a free upgrade to the next gen. So
there's so much content there too, because of the online community that literally can design a hit you have to do on any fucking level, and then submit it to the community.
And any character in any level, you can say, hey, I want you to kill this guard that's in the kitchen.
Right.
I want
Random dude. Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they have these
That's
like
badass.
contracts you can take. It's so cool, man. And then you unlock weapons, and you get more. And so the more you play, the more weapons you unlock, and it's just costumes you unlock. It's just so fun. So Hitman is my next submission. D, what you got?
I'm gonna go Spider-Man for my last one.
Mm.
So yeah, dude. So when that came out,
About to be cross-gen. It's about to be cross-gen.
it's about to be
Is it or
okay.
is it not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. How do you make it? Well, I guess on Xbox it'll be fine. But no, man, the traversal was a shitload of fun. They did it really, really well, graphically, right, and experience-wise. Like it's very smooth to sling the webs going across the city. Um,
Mm.
I haven't picked up a bunch of the expansions, but I do want to get back into that and do those. But I did platinum it like the week it came out. I think that's one of my. I have to go look. That's got to be. It might be the only one, but
I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud.
well, it's because it was so early on. Like you just had to take like the pictures and shit. Like it wasn't that one wasn't so bad. Where is that on your list? That one's got to be like easy as balls rating.
I think it was like a 2 or 3 out of 10. You're right. It's just kind of you got to do all the. There's no difficulty related trophies. You do got to kill the pictures. You got to find them. You do have to beat these little. What?
For the listener out there, I would like the Naked Gamer to go about describing the balls comment that was just made. What in fact
Easy as balls.
are easy as what is it to be easy as balls, Naked Gamer?
It's a 2 or 3 out of 10.
Ah, gotcha.
Balls are pretty easy to figure out, man.
Well,
They're just there.
I really wanted to include Spider-Man. It just didn't make the cut, unfortunately.
I'll do it.
Man, I'm so glad you brought that to the table though, because I love that game.
That
You
was a
jump
great
off the
game.
roofs. The web slinging is awesome. The upgrades you can unlock are fun.
Yeah, the suits. They did a great job
suits,
with the cosmetics being unlockable.
the photo
as part of
mode.
I
the
love
game.
the
man.
story. The
The
story
was great. Yep.
heartbreaking at times.
Yeah, well, they went there with one of the characters, which was awesome to see. Yeah, man, that's a great submission. Spider-Man was an awesome game. I also platinumed that thing. While we talk here, I'm vamping because I'm trying to see what the difficulty rating is. It is a solid 3 out of 10. One playthrough. So
Easy as balls.
easy as balls. Um,
Yeah, that's great.
yeah.
So, I'll go. So I will say, yeah, I've very much enjoyed some of y'all's submissions. Spider-Man, along with CJ, you said one of my other ones that I was going to mention. Well, Hitman,
Hitman.
and then God of War as well. So if I could have like a 5, A, B, C, and D, they would be right there. But my number 5 is Red Dead Redemption 2.
Oh man, horse riding simulator.
The horse riding simulator. Love that game. No, so again, that like, I loved the original Red Dead Redemption.
I did too.
Both because of how awesome the story was, but then it was just cool to have like Cowboy Grand Theft Auto. This was just the original on like ultra steroids. Loved everything about it. I know people have their gripes with this, that, and the other thing, and the online has its share of troubles, at least now. But damn, it's just such a great game. Great narrative. I love all of the content and all of the attention to detail to everything that was given. How beautiful the whole game looks, to be quite honest. The sound design is impeccable. Like, everything in that game is cool, and it's funny, and it's dramatic, and the action is good, and I like the gunplay, and the horse riding is cool, and all the set pieces are dope. It's like if Steven Spielberg could have an unlimited budget and knew the art of creating video games, that's the game he would make. I loved it.
Yeah, I enjoyed the storyline in that game also, man. There's a lot to it, and they packed a lot into that game, and I like where they went with the story. I never played the original, so I had no bias coming in, but I had a lot of fun with that. So yeah, it's a good submission, Woodsy. So my last one here is no surprise to anyone who knows me playing video games, is the Dark Souls series, man.
Whoa! Hold on. I actually am surprised. How is it not Bloodborne?
Well, so when I say Dark Souls series, I mean Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, Bloodborne,
This is some cheater
Sekiro. Well, if you wanted me to give my list, it's gonna be all five or six of those games. So, but that being said, I think my favorite game of that is probably Bloodborne. Those games are, they get so much perceived notion about them being hard, and it's just learning how to play them. There's so much lore and story built into those games if you really want to dig into it. One thing I always do when I play and I beat a game, if I like it, I like to go on and find any podcast I can about it. Dark Souls, I'm currently subscribed to like 5 different Dark Souls podcasts. There's just people that just talk and wax and every little thing about these games, and why was this character here, and what's the meaning of this item there. And it's just, there's so much there to those games, and people can dissect them, a million different ways, and it's fun to hear. And it's fun to hear about people's first times playing it. One of the podcasts I listen to is about everyone's first time playing the game and why they love the game. So much has come out of that game, and so much of my time, was sunk into all those games. I have the platinums in all of them except Demon Souls, which I'm looking forward to doing when it comes out to PlayStation 5. Yeah, I love the Dark Souls games, man. I can't recommend them enough. They're not for everyone. I understand that. But if you want to get a good lore-based game and have a lot of fun, Dark Souls it is for me. So
no, that's awesome. Well, you kind of jimmied that, but I would have been remiss if it wasn't Bloodborne. But yeah, dude, I know you love those, and I love the fact that there's all this like subculture to it with these podcasts that I had no fucking idea about.
It's like you turn a rock over. I mean, because other games, God of War, they'll have like people dedicate a show to God of War or a show to, but no other.
Destiny's like that too.
Destiny, yeah. The Destiny Fireteam Chat. So that's another one, but that's one. It's one or two. But like, man, it's just like you unturn the rock, and it's like holy shit. But if I had to give my rankings, they would go Bloodborne, Dark Souls 3, Dark Souls 1, Sekiro, Dark Souls 2, and then probably Demon Souls at the tail end there. So yeah, well, that is my favorite series on this generation of consoles. And to your point, it straddles generations, but they were all remade and on the PlayStation 4. So that's why
or will be on the 5.
Yep.
CJ, what's the first game you're buying for your PlayStation 5? Survey says
Demon Souls. Yeah, so you'll hear all about that when that comes out. So, all right, so we got a little bit of time left here, and I am very interested in our next segment here. It is called the Woods Wacky Video Game Conspiracy.
Right. All right, so for our viewers and listeners, this came about one evening after I had done some imbibing of sorts and was yakking it up with Ryan. And I have to say, I didn't make this up to be like just some crazy narrative I'm trying to create. I honestly think this could be a real fucking possibility. So I'm going to start off by saying one thing and transition back to the larger point. And that is the Spider-Man Miles Morales game we are going to get with the PlayStation 5 launch was originally meant not to be a large expansion, but a true sequel to Spider-Man. Now, why do I say this? I say it because where the heck did CJ go?
He's dead.
Well, he needs to opine on this shit. I believe that because I believe simultaneously that when the Xbox Series S or X was announced back in March or late February, I forget which one, that caught Sony off guard. Sony was not preparing to launch the PlayStation 5 this year originally. So CJ, to catch you up, my conspiracy theory goes like this. Spider-Man Miles Morales was meant to be a full sequel rather than a large expansion. And I believe that because back when Microsoft announced the new Xbox in February or March, Sony was caught off guard because they actually did not have a plan to release the PlayStation 5 this year. Now, I'm sure that they had a lot of the technical design specs already in place and even some build developer units mostly ready to go. What I definitely don't believe is they knew what that console was going to look like, that they actually planned to release it this fall, and that they were planning to do Spider-Man 2, Miles Morales, as a full-blown sequel to the original for the launch of the PlayStation 5 in November of 2021, and had to greatly scale it back. As a result, it is now a large expansion pass. Now, the other reasons for why I believe this include Sony's messaging has been all over the fucking place.
And mostly terrible.
We still know next to nothing about the actual console and its features and its UI, none of that shit. And people are now definitely starting to talk and ring the bell a little bit on this thing because everybody's had the Xbox now to preview and showing off the UI and talked about the features and this, that, and the other thing. Nobody has a fucking clue. Nobody has a goddamn fucking clue. And you even have this confusion now, even with just another article today talking about cross-generational saves from the PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 5 and how there's a bunch of fucking confusion around that bullshit now.
Yep, your unlocks and your, like, even that stuff. Like, they were talking, was it Call of Duty, like with the Battle Pass and shit? Like, your state, at the
Right.
point you switch consoles, they're not entirely sure that that's going to make it.
So here's what's happening. We've been talking several times now. We've mentioned that Sony, it seems to be like Sony doesn't quite know what they're doing and are flying by the seat of their pants. And I believe that because I believe very strongly that it is a very strong possibility that Sony did not plan to launch the PS5 this fall. They were caught off guard by Microsoft saying they were going to launch their new console next fall, and they made a conscientious decision to speed everything up by almost an entire year, specifically because they did not want to get caught in the same trap they got caught in when they released the PlayStation 3 a year after the Xbox 360.
Do you think, so following that train of thought, since Microsoft, at least for launch titles, it's pretty much a shit show with nothing,
Right.
do you feel that at some point early on, and I mean that by like December of 2019, decided
Sure.
to say, fuck it, we're going to release it next year, as if they were also planning for a 2021 launch, and just said, hey, we're going to rush this thing so that...
And try to force Sony's hand or something like that. Try to get the same leg up they got with on the 360, effectively. Yeah, sure. I could take that. That could easily extend to that because why wouldn't Microsoft? They had everything to gain.
Right.
Sony has way more to lose, and because they have all them. They you would have said a year ago, before last year, or even just Christmas of last year.
Yeah, that's what I was
didn't know about any of this bullshit, right?
Like I feel like Microsoft would have had since they've obviously put the most thought into the Game Pass and the cloud and the
Right.
streaming and shit. They were mostly confident that they could get that together by launch, even if they didn't have a bunch of titles.
Right. And
I could see
and why
that.
not?
And then you just
Why
push
not?
Sony, because your plan there would be like if we wait till 2021, they'll have a bunch of exclusive launch titles, and like all the ducks will be in a row. Like to your point, right? And we'll get crushed.
Right. Because right now I'm still buying a $500 consumer electronics device
And I
that,
don't know anything
relative
about
to the competition, I know next to nothing about.
But
So,
you still bought it, so you're enabling them.
well, I want a golden ticket.
Why don't you go plunk down your $90 for Madden? Like just join in. Just start plunking it down. Just reward all these cholos.
Yeah.
So I definitely agree with a lot of what you're saying. I don't necessarily agree that
Okay, do you agree? You may not have to agree that it is the thing that happened, but do you agree that there is a
It's
legitimate possibility that that is what actually has happened?
Yes and no. So let me give what I think about this,
I'll take the yes. Thank you very
so
much.
what I think was, I think they were both, targeting this time to release. Where I think it deviates a little bit is not necessarily that PlayStation wasn't ready to release. I think that PlayStation has always said we're about generations. We have a PlayStation 4 generation, we have a PlayStation 3 generation, we have two. And I think they were caught a little flat foot with Microsoft saying, "Hey, play our shit anywhere. Play it on the Xbox One, play it on the Xbox One X, Series X, wherever the hell you want to play. It's all good. It's just going to scale depending on your." And PlayStation's like, "Well, shit. Now I have to make my PlayStation 5 backwards compatible, and now I have to figure out how all these new features are going to work together." So I think they're trying to change what they initially scoped out the PlayStation 5 to be. I think they were intending on this time regardless. But I'm thinking that the reason why we're not knowing more about how these cross things work because they weren't planning on it initially, and now they're like, "Well, shit! Now we got to try to jam in PlayStation 4. We can't do 2 and 1
because
2
of
and 1
like
and 3."
the pressure of the Xbox is what you're saying.
Yeah, so I think the Xbox pressured them into making PlayStation 4 backwards compatible, and that's why they don't know. Some games will work, some games won't. It kind of gets to the whole name change thing, where PlayStation was caught flat-footed with a name change because they set it up in a stupid fucking way where people couldn't change their names, and now that you can change your names, hey, these games may or may not work. Part of the reason why I have no desire to change my name is because the games on the list that won't work is the Dark Souls games. I think that's what's causing.
I agree with you. I agree with you that also could be the real possibility. But we haven't gotten down the path of my Bill Gates COVID conspiracy and how it relates.
Well, before we get there,
5G
I want
towers have a lot to do with
I want to touch on some news because this week they did get the PlayStation 5 in the hands of some of the influencers out in Japan, but they disabled the create button and wouldn't show them the UI. And to your credit, we're a month out now, and not that the UI is going to be a system seller anyway, or the create button is going to be a system seller. The games are what they're banking on being the system seller, and the performance of said games being the system sellers.
Well, wouldn't it be cool to know that you could have like 6 games up at one time and switch between them?
Yeah, but I mean, are you going to buy an Xbox instead because you can on a PlayStation? Or are you going to buy it because you can
play?
But
it'd be nice to know if it's good or couldn't.
No, I totally understand, and I agree. It's getting weird at this point, that we don't know what the UI is, and they're hiding it from people, and they didn't tell us what the create button is, and they're disabling it, and
I feel like I'm dating a tranny who hasn't told me yet that she's a tranny. Okay,
well, hey man, as long as you're getting that action, it's all about But they're banking on the
surprise, yeah.
the games being the system sellers, and their messaging is way off base, man. They're all over the place, like you mentioned. We don't know what the UI is. We don't know exactly how these saves are going to transfer. Some games you can get free upgrades, some games you can't, even within their own ecosystem. Miles Morales, you can. You can buy it for $10 cheaper on PlayStation 4 and get the free upgrade. But Spider-Man Remastered isn't. Some of the saves won't transfer. It's all weird all over the place. It's a mess. It really
a
is.
complete fucking clusterfuck.
Well, and to your point, like, if they weren't planning on doing that, that was incredibly stupid from the beginning. Because that means that they're not paying attention to the developer ecosystem that's happening literally everywhere else with Kubernetes and containers and all this other shit, because all that should be able to be put into little boxes and executed upon, and like what Microsoft's doing where the OS doesn't matter and it's continuously updated. The one that's on the 4 should now be running on the 5, and it should just be minor updates. Like, if Sony wasn't planning for this 5, 6, 7 years ago already, they're fucking dumb, and they weren't paying attention, and they deserve to get crushed.
Well, and I honestly don't buy the Neo narrative too that Sony is this generational thing. They're fucking not. PlayStation 2 played all your PlayStation 1 games. The very first PlayStation 3, the Fat Boy they launched, you could play all your PlayStation games from 1 to 2 to 3. And the only reason they tried putting this narrative out there is specifically because the cell processor on the PlayStation 3, the architecture in that thing was so fucking ridiculous that they couldn't make the PlayStation 3 also play or PlayStation 4 also play PlayStation 3. They just couldn't fucking do it at the time. But what is PlayStation Now, which came out before Xbox Game Pass? Your path to play PlayStation 2 games that they now also sell in the digital store, and this, that, and the other thing. And PlayStation 1 games are on there, and so on and so forth. So to say that they are anti-cross-generational is bullshit. What it really is how can we make some more fucking money?
Yeah, games that we already sold. Yeah. It's all about money. It always is.
Yes, indeed. Well, Woodsy, that is any more to your tinfoil stories? Let's skip the Bill Gates COVID stories, but that wasn't too tinfoil. I think you hit on a lot of, I think you're spot on with a lot of your opinions there, man. So, I think that was a good first crack at your tinfoil hat, but I don't think there's a whole lot of tinfoil there, man. I think there's a lot of smoke and fire there. So,
all right, well,
we need to bring this back and then just get more weird with it. I like it.
I do. I am curious to hear how weird you can get, Woodsy.
So pipe 5G into the PlayStation 5, and then it'll give you cancer.
But don't hold it in your left hand because you'll get cancer in your right nut.
Mellow yellow.
That's just easy as balls to get, man.
Yellow number 5. So Woodsy, what is in your cart, what is the latest on the Nier Automata?
My cart is currently vacant, so
okay, good.
Thank you very much. Credit
Not
card.
gonna buy any games this week.
Well, I don't know about that, but I looked at the Big in Japan sale again, just because I think that ends pretty quick, and there wasn't anything that excited me. So, Persona 5 was the one. Oh shit.
Wait to get wait to get Royal.
Yeah, no. Well, is Royal on sale?
Oh.
I'm gonna have to check. So stay tuned, everybody. But nothing right now. So. And
then Nier, are you still plugging along on that? We'll do some streams.
Yes, I'm gonna do another live cast of that. We should do another multiplayer live cast too on the weekend if you guys have time. But otherwise, I will definitely do another near cast this week as well.
Look for that on the Raw Cuts Gaming Twitter handle. We'll tweet it out and we'll retweet it. So you guys are all
and your meats. Tweet out your meats. We want to see your meats.
We got some good meat pictures this week. You got some good meats today.
Made like 50 pounds of meat on my smoker today.
You are the man. The big smoker came in handy today, didn't it?
Fucking A. 36.
Fucking A.
I'm glad I had
it. That concludes our 12th episode of the Raw Cuts Gaming Podcast. Thanks to you, the listener, for putting up with our ramblings, our bad dad jokes, and all of our juicy, uncut tinfoil hat stories. If you'd like to be a part of the conversation or just tell us how much you hate us, we'll definitely encourage you to reach out on the Twitter like I just pimped earlier, at Raw Cuts Gaming. If you want to watch us on YouTube, we're there, the Raw Cuts Gaming channel, or send us an email, rawcutsgaming@gmail.com. D, if people want to reach out to you, where's the best place to get a hold of you?
I'm at NakedGamer84 on the
I
Twitter.
thought he froze there.
I know, I got you guys. That was good.
Pregnant pause.
And also at noob with the zeros _naked_gamer on the Twitches.
Woodsy, if people want to hear your hot takes, your Twitter beef makes, where's the best place to get a hold of you at?
You guys can find me at you can find me on Twitter at Woods __wads.
Oh man, we were hoping.
And it's streaming on Twitch at the Rockets Gaming channel. Also, if you are on the PlayStation 4 or you're in PlayStation 4 communities, feel free to look up and join up with our Raw Cuts gaming community.
Yep.
Yep, right on the PlayStation community. I try to do a good job with as far as like filling out when our play dates are, and sending that information out. So if you wanna join us, and you're on a PlayStation, that's a really good resource for you to hang out.
Show us a new game. We had an awesome time with Ben when he came and Sherped us in Diablo.
I was just gonna.
A lot of fun.
So
yeah, we're just gods in that game, so we're never gonna play it again because it'll just be no fun. Right. Thanks, Ben. Thanks a lot, Ben.
If you want to get a hold of me, your resident trophy hunting host, you can find me on Twitter at CJ Reindahl. And with that concludes the 12th episode of the Rockets Gaming Podcast.
Woo! Peace out, everybody.